come on. Hey, feel the rhythm. It's getting from the deepest of your soul. Now, use your senses, and everything will be easier than before. Keep on moving, funk is coming. Blind yourself, big. You'll become the star in this die. Spread your wings, fly to me. Funk is coming. So we are here with Cerberus Hex, which is a weird nickname. Is there a story behind the nickname? Is it something that you just picked up? Because you went through some different nicknames, if I recall it correctly, right?
Well, no, that's always been my sort of main internet name. Yeah, there's a nerdy sort of thing behind it. And that is Cerberus is the guardian, right, of the underworld. He keeps he doesn't just keep people in, but he also keeps people out.
Yes.
So he's almost kind of an arbitrator, right? So if it's a hint to how I deal with people online. If someone comes to me and I identify them as like a giant asshole, I will make sure they're miserable. Right? I'll put them in Hades, right? Metaphorically speaking. And the hex is just like it's like a curse. I'm compulsed to do this.
Well, it's more like the guardian. You don't really bring people to hell. You know, you would be Charon if you were to, to ship people to hell.
Oh yeah, but these people come to me, right? This would be like someone walking up to Cerberus in the underworld. Cerberus would be like, where are you supposed to go? Oh, okay, you belong there. Oh, okay, how do you get out?
So is it something that you look at yourself as, something that you do? I mean, bringing people to hell, or just guarding hell, or something like that? I'm intrigued by that. I don't know why we got into this angle, but now it's really intriguing. Might be, some reminiscence of Dante's Inferno, which, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Defiant Comedy, but it's not really so much that. It's like when I was raised, there's this catchphrase that was how do I put it? It's obligations through virtue, permissions through actions. So there's like my culture has a strict code of conduct, right? Relatively strict. But if someone gives you permission, you can essentially do whatever as far as ethics are concerned. So that's what it is. Someone comes to me and gives me permission to treat them like they belong in hell, so I'll do it.
Okay, I mean, for a split second, I thought you were a libertarian.
Nah.
Okay.
I'm a liberal. I'm dangerously close.
Well, no, well, okay, yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's really tricky when we get to that point because again, the perception of how the scale goes in politics in the US is very different from the one in Europe. So, yeah.
I try to use the terms as close as I can to what I remember from my political science classes. So yeah. I like to think I'm not super American centric on my politics. At least the labels anyway.
So that is quite intriguing because my recollection of you engaging. Okay, so first of all, scratch that. How do you get involved in this kind of conversation, this kind of discussion? The atheist, theist, and also the political ones, because you're really involved into that ones too, right? So I mean, what brought you to that kind of arena?
Oh shit. Okay, so when I was, I don't know, when I was like maybe. So I guess there's a small story I have to tell before this story.
Okay.
And that is, and that is I was homeschooled up until third grade. So, but about the time I would have been in first grade, at least in America, I don't know what that would be in Italy. Uh, I could use the computer at home during the day as long as I got all my work done. Right.
Mm-hmm.
My father, this is before Internet 2.0. Right. So this is when the internet was like billboards that you had to call into and log on to.
Mm.
My father owned a billboard. He operated. He had one running, and there was a group of people who would argue about Jesus on there. That's how I got started. So I got started when I was like 7, arguing with adults, and yeah, that was fun. Right? I got to talk mean to adults. That's really what it was when I got started. I didn't care so much about the religious stuff. I like calling adults stupid.
So I mean, you're just a cunt. That's what you're telling me.
Yeah, yeah. More so though. I like to think I got better. More so though when I was 7.
Yeah. Okay. So, okay, talk me into the progression, because I mean, at 7, you're kind of a of an asshole. So talk me into the progression, of where you are right now, if there is a progression.
Yeah, there is. So it stayed on bulletin boards for a long time until you got to like Windows. Windows 95, like to like Windows 98, that sort of area, right? And then some websites like forums started to pop up. So you had like Free Think, and was it the Thinking Atheist? I'm trying to remember. I think it was the Thinking Atheist. What? I think it was the Thinking Atheist that Aaron Ra was on. That was my first real like deep dive into the atheist thing, the atheist debating thing. Was I used to have back and forth with Aaron Ra, and that I would have back and forth with the people that Aaron Ra was arguing with. And that's sort of what shot me into just being addicted to staying a part of, like, following the community wherever it took me. It's like a little sailboat on the ocean. Right? And I stayed there for a really long time until I became a lieutenant at the fire department I worked at. So I switched to third shift. And that's when I found G+. And that's when I started doing Hangouts and stuff. And then Hangouts, G+ ended, Discord started, StreamYard stuff started happening, and that's where we are now.
You use the term community. Are you so do you think that there is a community, and what is a community to you?
Yeah, there is something there. I think it's actually more accurately to call it a culture. Right? It's not really like one community. A community would be just a small group of close-knit people. There are those, right? But it's really, 100, 200 of those sort of loosely glued together on the internet. Where I occasionally run into people who I hadn't seen for like 10 years that I saw like on some forum somewhere that I talked to a long time before. Right, and I think those little communities sort of just intermix and move around the internet from like website to website or platform to platform.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I refer to when I say community, really.
Okay, let me dig a little bit into that line of conversation, because from what you said, and from what I recall, I mean, you've been around a lot, like a lot. What is your general idea of the state of the culture, as you said right now, and does it differ from, I don't know, like 5 years ago? What would be the big differences, if there are?
I would say G plus and like the start of Twitter was kind of a transitioning period. I don't know if there's any specific nature that I could point out there, but from maybe like 15 years ago to now, I think there's a major shift. Of course, a lot of the main arguments have changed, even though people don't realize it. But I think the biggest change is I believe the major body of active atheists online, not like the big names, but like the regular atheist online arguing back and forth. I think they've become incoherent. I I find a lot of atheists have stopped defining the term God, so they're not really saying anything. And it's totally bewildering to me because up until then, almost every atheist I came across had at least a working definition of the word.
So okay, this is an interesting angle. Wouldn't it be the duty of the theist to define a god? Why do you say that the atheist is stopped defining a god?
But it would only be a duty of the theist if the theist is having a debate or an argument, right? But atheists exist outside of debate and argument, right? They'll define themselves. Let's use the loose definition that someone who doesn't have a belief in a god, right? That's a definition that works regardless. If we removed every theist from the planet, that could still be true of someone. So the next question is, what are you saying? And if they don't define the word, they're not saying anything. And that's really what I mean. There's no. You should be able to remove a word from a statement and replace that word with its definition and the meaning not change. But you can't do that because when you replace the G word from that statement, there's nothing to put in there.
I understand you. I'm not sure I totally agree with you. Because, I mean, if we leave the definition of God to the atheists, the theist could say, well, I mean, you don't believe in a God, which is not my God. This is the God I believe in. So would it be like a little bit, I don't know, not really saying anything? If so, I mean, for example, okay, I can make up a definition of anything. Okay, I mean, forget about God. I can make up, whatever the hell, and I can assign a definition and say, well, I don't believe in that. What is? I mean, is it really useful?
Well, I mean, it would depend on, I think, the specific circumstances of what you're doing, but if not useful, it would at least be coherent, right? I could understand what you were saying.
Yeah, but I mean, it will still be. So you're sacrificing coherence for something which is actually informative, which it isn't, because I'm making up my own definition and I say, yeah, you know what, I do not believe in that. Well, nobody asked you to believe in that, first of all.
Well, yeah, but I mean, your general atheist isn't denying a god, like a singular god, right? So it's not, like, you can't really just go, I'm an atheist that's not Christian. Like that, I guess you can, but that would be really specific and centric and I think a little weird. Most atheists are global atheists, which means they can't have a definition that's specific to one god. They would have to have a general definition.
No, I mean, I get you. I mean, but I think global atheism is another, can of worm that I'm not really sure I want to get close to that, because I think there are problems with that. But I mean, I understand the position. I understand why people say that. On a level, I kind of agree with that, but I think it's a little bit problematic. But what you said about the Christian. Okay, so you're right, and I understand you. But keep in mind that, for example, when you say the word Christian, or yeah, well, okay, let's stick with Christian because it's easier. It means a lot of different things. Like, if you say Christian where I live, it's one thing. It's a Roman Catholic. That's it. I mean, there is no way around it. If you say Christian in the US, I think it depends where you are, So,
Oh, yeah.
So even that label, and that is one of the, critics that it pops up in the conversation quite often, and I think it has some merit, is that it's a label which, sometimes it to me, it seems to me that it's useful only when they want to count numbers and they say, oh yeah, the Christians is the biggest religion in the world. I'm not really sure that, all the people that believe what you believe will, address themselves as Christian. It's like the G-man argument, where it says that, and then it turns out that not every, when it says, oh yeah, no, Catholics are not Christians. Well, come on. I mean, you can say that and that at the same time.
Well, this is actually where I first sort of got this observation, right? Because there are, like, I don't know, make an extreme list, like 1,000 definitions of the Christian God, right? Because there's all sorts of tiny variations about what he is or what it is or all that stuff. An atheist, I've never run into an atheist that accepts one of them, right? So if you're an atheist, you're going to deny all the different definitions of the Christian God, which means your definition of God can't be specific to just one Christian God. So it has to be general. Like, even if it's just something like magical sky daddy, right? Supernatural magical sky daddy. That works.
I still think it depends on the definition. And there is also the fact that I cannot honestly say I do not believe. So, okay, let's make an example. Up until, let's say, 15 years ago, I was marginally aware of the fact that there were people that they took the Bible literally, because there is nobody here does that. Because,
oh yeah, Catholics, they don't.
Yeah, fuck those guys, right? They're mental. So I was marginally aware of that. And so, in all honesty, up to 15 years ago, I would not have been able to really say, no, I don't believe in the God that you describe that is literal to the Bible. Because nobody has really explained it to me.
Well, I don't think I've ever had anyone explain it to me either.
No. But what I'm saying is that I think it's tough to say. So I guess it's the general of global atheists, which is really, I don't really, not accept, but to me, again, it's really problematic because maybe is the culture I lived in, maybe the studies, everybody's different depending on the culture you live in. Your mind is shaped in a certain way, but to me, first you hear the claim and then you examine and then you eventually say if you agree or not. And the claim Christian is so widespread that it actually means nothing. It's like the term I believe in Islam. Yeah, okay. I mean, there is a lot of different, facets and different shades of that, right? So what do you really mean? Are you an Orthodox? Are you an evangelical? Are you a Protestant? You see what I mean?
Well, yeah, but there is a little. I'm not super concerned about this. It's just an observation.
No. Okay, don't get me wrong. I'm not concerned about that either. I think it's more like an intellectual position of me. At the end of the day, I might even get to agree with you. But intellectually, I'm kind of on the fence about that one because again, I really don't know. There might be a particular sect of Christianity that they have some kind of definition and approach which totally makes sense. It's just that I have no fucking idea.
Well, yeah. Well, this is why I was going to point out that there is like a little quirk to this, because I think most of these atheists actually do have a working definition. They just don't say it. Whether that's
yes,
whatever.
yeah.
But if an atheist gets in an argument with like a naturalistic pantheist,
Mm-hmm.
the definition the naturalistic pantheist is going to use for God is going to apply. The atheist is going to have to agree that it exists,
Right.
or otherwise deny reality that they're a part of. Which means there are no atheists; there are only theists, unless you have a definition that excludes that particular God from being a God.
Right.
Which is part of the reason to have the definition in the first place.
Yes, exactly. That's what I meant. Let's hear what you believe in, and then let me explain it to me, and then I will tell you if it makes sense to me or not. So I think we're on the same page. But I'm actually raising the stakes. Forget about the theist. Let's think about the deist. I don't know if it's your experience, but I've met some deists in this conversation where I'll never be able to tell them exactly, so that might be a shortcoming on my side. But my gut feeling was that those guys were deists because deism is basically, unfalsifiable. Depending on how you present, it might be unfalsifiable. So they say, oh, fuck off. I mean, really? Now you're a deist because it's unfalsifiable. Okay, I guess I have to not agree with you on reasons,
Well, yeah, it's just you take the Christian God and you remove all hint of possibility of observing a miracle.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, done. It's officially, God is officially not even really a part of the universe anymore.
Yeah. And I guess we are in that weird scenario where, and that can be applied to a lot of things. And let's say one thing in a short time, so that just to trigger you. But we are in that weird scenario where somebody say, yeah, okay, you're right, so what? Right?
Yeah.
Which,
yeah, I run into that a lot.
yeah. But it's that's not the only area where you can say so what. I mean, I sometimes wonder to myself, okay, so what? When I also hear some people trying to push some definition of atheism, which yeah, okay, so what?
Oh yeah, that's like bring it to Steve McRae. Oh my god. That's the most insufferable part of Steve McRae, as far as I'm concerned. Trying to argue about atheism every time it plops in his lap.
Hey, but listen, I mean, to be totally fair to the guy, he's not the only one which is trying to make a career out of it.
Oh, that's true. But he is the only one I've run into that's lasted this long from the old agnostic community. Right. His attitude toward atheism is exactly what the group of agnostics were on the internet like 20 years ago. Right? They were agnostic because they didn't want to be theists, and they hated the positive claim that was common for atheism at the time. So they were just like, I'm better than everyone. Be gone peasant sort of attitude to everybody. And Steve still has it. He didn't let it go.
So that would be the atheist version of the deist.
Yeah, kind of. And they in general sort of saw the slow shifting of the definition to this more broad, less committal version, like the lacktheism position, as like trying to consume agnosticism, which I guess it did, but it didn't change anything. It just changed other than a label.
So, okay, moving on, because I think we're going into a rabbit hole. I don't really want to go. In all the years that you've been around, from BBS to G Plus and so on, what would be, in your words, what would be the worst attitude that you find on people, both theists and atheists, and what would be the worst arguments that you've heard from both sides?
Oh my god, I'll give one from both.
Hey man,
Not,
I never said this was going to be easy, right? So,
yeah. I'll give one to both. And not to try to be equal or even or fair or anything, but I think honestly they both sides have one that's about as bad as the other. The the lack of evidence is evidence drives me nuts. Because you're coming to a conclusion based on literally nothing, right? So that drives me insane. And precept, it like I don't know what other people think, but the Christians, right, the theist from like 15 years ago, that had that was they were like all they did was argue evolution and stuff like that. Even though they did it really poorly, I think they actually had better arguments then than precept is now. Right? Precept is literal. It is a fallacy. I am assuming the conclusion in my premises.
I mean, I don't want to put the two of them on the same plane because I think they do not belong in the same plane. But there is a similarity in both of them. I think, and I want to know what's your idea about it. Is that both of them they're actually designed to be conversation stoppers.
Oh yeah, definitely. Right, because you can't argue really with someone who gives you what who gives you such a strong conviction to a fallacy in an argument. Right? It's like someone slamming a door in your face. You can't argue with a slammed door. Right? There's no reasoning there anymore.
Which I guess brings back to the question: how do you measure the intellectual honesty of somebody you're speaking to when you're speaking about those topics? And what is your threshold? You know, what are some things that makes you think, okay, yeah, that's a good pointer that this guy's being dishonest with me. I'm not going to talk with him anymore. If you do, because there's some people we still talk with people like that.
Yeah. It's really fuzzy for me because I'll put up with a lot of stuff.
I love fuzzy.
Yeah, I'll put up a lot of stuff. Name calling, the biggest hint to me that someone's not being honest anymore is they call you a name right before they give you an answer. Right? I don't know the ratio of people doing it on purpose and people that are just doing it because that's just ingrained in them. But that tells me right there that they don't want me to pay attention to the answer. They want me to focus on being called a name. And that's usually when a discussion breaks down into an argument. Right? That's when reason starts going out the window. It doesn't matter what points you have anymore. It's just you're the bad guy now.
Yeah.
So it's fuzzy, but I think that's the line and when I start to notice it.
No, it's interesting because for example, to me would be when you speak with the person and he's trying to weaponize the tool that he's using to express his argument, not the argument per se, but he's weaponizing the tool that he's using. It might be the language, it might be the scope. Most of the time it's philosophy or stuff like that. When I feel that they are using the tool to validate the argument in such a way to put you at a disadvantage because you're actually missing the nuances of their argument, I think that's a big red flag for me.
Oh yeah, and this doesn't happen to me as much. So I didn't really think about this, but like when watching debates or arguments between other people, a big red flag for me is when someone hides behind terminology when they know the other person doesn't know it.
Yeah, that's what I meant. It might be the language or language, I mean, meaning that, the words that are spoken, or language as in, okay, we are in the scope of philosophy, and I'm making some absurd references that I know you never catched up, so you're fucked because you don't know how to reply to that. So yeah.
And I know people that do it. I know people that do that on purpose, and that drives me crazy.
Right. And I mean, so what is your reaction when you realize that happens? Is it, you just tell him to, I don't know, fuck off and die, or you just, I mean, well, how do you react to that?
Like I said, it doesn't happen so much to me. Uh, I know enough of the terminology that I can at least look up really quickly terminology I don't know. Right, I'm competent enough to read a manual essentially, but when I see it happen to other people, it doesn't matter what side that other person is on. I will join their side. I will immediately make it a 2v1.
Okay, so and what would be your suggestion to somebody which finds himself in that position?
Oh, when it's being done to them,
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest you have to stay calm, and that's always the first advice I give for any situation like this. Stay calm, try to stay polite, and be humble enough to ask them specifically what those words mean. Make them explain every word that they want to try to hide behind. It will make it almost impossible for them to make an argument. And they'll either start speaking more plainly, or it will actually look like it will actually kind of expose them for being an asshole.
Yeah,
I guess throw away your pride. That's probably that's a good way to sum it up.
yeah. Okay, no, I get it. I get it. Uh, you've been involved in so ever since G Plus collapsed, you've been around. I saw you, on Drag server, every so often and stuff like that. But I've mostly seen you in some other. How do you say? Not community. Some other. Well, I'll say culture. I mean, I love it. So I just replace community with culture because I agree with you. It's an overrated word. Specifically, I've seen you a lot in Brojo's Hangout, which eventually I'm going to talk with. That is something quite different, right? I mean, why you're
No,
yeah. So
it's the stands. Right? That's how I would describe it to an American as it is the stands in a football or baseball game. Right? Brojo's group has been around for a really long time too,
mhm.
and they've never really been they've never even really tried to be front and center of anything. It's where a lot of the people that are a part of the main circus take a vacation. Right? They go to places like Brojo's channel to sit around and gossip a little bit, and then this bullshit about other stuff. It, but it's still most of the same people, but it's a completely different attitude in the room.
So, okay, but do you prefer to go there because you want to hide instead of, getting guns blazing in some other circles where you'll find other people which are way more vitriolic, or is it just for some other reason? And I know I'm being a cunt. I mean, that is a
No,
loaded question,
that's fine.
but it's
That's fine.
just
I think it is a little hiding. Uh, I think people. I don't know. I don't think people become more vitriolic, but they've become more insulated. And I think even with that insulation, they've made echo chambers, and they're much more sensitive to hearing things that they don't agree with. Uh, from any position in sort of the culture, right? And I could still get into like because most of it's on Discord now, a little bit's on Twitter. I could still get into servers and talk with people, But if I have like a real debate about something where there's going to be points brought up that they don't like and maybe they can't deny all of them, I will not be in that server long. It just won't happen because I won't capitulate to the other side just to stay in the server. So I'll stick on point, stay with the point, and then I'll eventually get kicked out because I'll be found to be annoying, even if I'm not trolling anyone, right? Even if I'm just arguing the point. So I only dip my toes in those places now. I jump in to a server, have an argument, and then I'll just leave. I'll just leave the server. Right? They don't kick me or ban me or anything. I just pop out. I'm gone now. I'll come back in a couple months when I think of some argument I like and I'll see how it works. Otherwise, I'll just sit in places like Brojo's.
So let me see if I can not rephrase, but just repack what you said. It seems to me that you try to stay away from environment which are too polarizing. Would that be a fair assessment?
Oh yeah.
Do you think that because the polarization is something which I think has been increased a lot during the recent years, and not only in this conversation, but even in society, in culture, in politics, and stuff like that. So, do you think that one of the reasons why these kind of conversations are way more polarized is because of the general environment that we are in? It's something. It has become part of a kind of like a value in the culture we live in, or it just happened by chance.
Well, I think the polarization and sort of the religious atheist debate community has happened because of politics. Right? Polarization in politics is sort of what drove it, because there's political implications from those positions that sort of force people into one camp or another. And I think, I guess this might be a little bit of a hot take, but I think the polarization is happening because of an overabundance of moderation tools.
Oh, that's interesting. Please expand on that.
It's become too easy to remove everyone you don't agree with, and still keep a space that like-minded people can be in. Right? It used to be that it was really hard to keep people out with different ideas in like forums and stuff. It was too easy to make accounts. There wasn't, like, back in the day, there wasn't even email verification, all that sort of stuff. So kicking someone or banning someone was basically pointless. A lot of places didn't even have the function. So you had to deal with people. And what we did is we kept the space and allowed groups to completely isolate themselves with moderation tools. I think if we got rid of most of those moderation tools, we would immediately have. I think it would happen in waves. We would immediately have a bunch of Nazi bars, right? You would have a bunch of trolls coming to everywhere that they were removed from, and blow the place up, right? You would just destroy everything. And I think after that, you would have places open up where the more tolerant people that could deal with each other would be the central focal point. And then everyone else that was too sensitive would just either have to deal with it or go away. And it would basically revert to like what we had in like 04 and 05 and 06. I think almost everything would turn around.
Yeah, I mean, so I understand your point. I'm not really sure. Well, I mean, I guess it's one of those things that you only have to try to see if it's true or not. But when you were talking, I was thinking about places like 8chan. 8chan, there is no moderation at all. And fuck me if it is polarized.
Oh well, I mean it's polarized almost all entirely in one direction though. Right? There isn't much of a cultural overlap in 8chan.
Yeah.
4chan, I think 4chan is a better example, right? Because 4chan's been around since those early days. They haven't changed their moderation tools, other than they did institute a small mod group who would stop like CP and stuff from getting on the
Yeah,
website.
but again, 4chan was moderated, is moderated.
Yeah, but it's very sparsely moderated, and they don't remove
Okay, so
people
no,
from
go ahead.
communities based on like opinions about something. They'll
Okay,
remove people for posting crimes, essentially.
okay, so what you say is not that you are against moderation; it's just the level of moderation.
Well, that's just, I'm not even. I don't know if against it is really what I am. It's an observation I've made. That I guess really it's a theory I have or a
Okay, no, no,
hypothesis
listen,
technically.
no, listen. I don't want to push it because I appreciate the fact that it's a theory. It's something that we can both agree or disagree. So, I'm not going to push it. I think it's interesting that that you say what you think and I say what I think, and that's it. I think it's we should leave it like there because yeah, I think we both have our reasons why we said what we said, and I can totally see they're both perfectly legitimate, both yours and of course mine because I've said it. But
Yeah, but I'll tell you if I'm against it in 20 years when I have the full ability of hindsight
right,
to look back at the situation.
right, yeah, I should be 75-ish by the time. So if Alzheimer hasn't catch me up as bad as I think it will, just send me a DM and
Yeah, if we're still in contact, then you'll get a one letter email or something that says or a 2 word email. I'm against it, and you'll
right,
know what it
right.
is.
Okay. Listen, fair enough. It's a deal. Okay. So listen, man. Let's go back to the last part of the conversation. Now, I'm going to read you the 3 questions that you sent me that you want me to ask you, and I will read them exactly in the order that you gave it to me and exactly how you worded. So the first one is, ethnically, what are you, and what effect does that have socially?
Okay, I want to preface this with I've I've had so many people over like the last decade come to me in multiple ways and tell me that there's something about me they don't understand. They'll list a bunch of different things, right,
Right.
depending on who it is and where and why and all that stuff. But they'll never ask me a question. They'll just go, "Well, he serves a mystery," and then wander off and never follow up on anything.
Well, I mean,
And
we all know that you come from Tibet, right? So, yeah, there it is. Problem solved.
so this is what those questions are sort of meant to answer, hopefully, so I don't have
Okay.
to constantly talk about myself
Okay.
other places. So, and these are all sort of complicated questions to answer, right? Because ethnically, I'm a big mix, right? So, if I was to describe my my ethnic group to people or my culture, kind of interchangeable here. Uh, I'm a how do I put it? Do you know any Latin? Does
Yeah.
does does Vetus Familia mean anything to you?
What you said, sorry?
Vetus Familia,
Uh huh.
right? So like older family.
Yeah.
That's what we call ourselves, or we in English we'll say the family or a family, our family,
Okay.
and we're highly structured. And I don't know what it's like in the rest of the world, but it's really odd for America. Everyone in America's roots are kind of shallow, even though they'll say they're German or they're African or all this other stuff, but they're not really connected to anything.
That is something that only you guys do in the
Oh
world.
yeah,
There is no other country I know of where people say, "Oh yeah, I'm Irish," because your grandfather was Irish. No, you're not. Fuck off. I mean, you don't even know where Ireland is. Yeah, so that's something. It's really peculiar to you guys. But yeah, carry on.
okay. So the term "old family" doesn't really tell people anything, but like I said, we're highly structured. So my family, a good way to think about it is, it's like let's say it's like Carthage, right? Before the Romans completely destroyed it, right? It was it's a centralized sort of insulated culture that made colonies, right? And we call those colonies houses. And houses spawn new houses, and like we kind of spread out, and we have our own customs and rituals and sort of ways of thinking ethically, and like all the things that come with culture.
Okay.
Like, and
So yeah, carry on.
oh, I'm trying not to get super. I don't want to sit there and get super deep because that could come into
Well,
later
okay.
questions.
Let
Uh,
me tell you this. Okay. Maybe there is somebody that your answer was good and clear enough. To me, I'm just more confused than before, and I didn't even. It wasn't even my question. So yeah, go ahead.
okay, and that's fair. So maybe like a brief overview of early family history, right? So, according to tradition in my family, we are Nabateans. We're the goat herding people, like started out in the northern Middle East, sort of spread out before the Romans took over everything. If you, I'm sure everyone's familiar with Petra out there. Someone's seen the Indiana Jones movie where he goes to the temple that's out in the middle of the desert in the canyon.
Yeah,
From
yeah.
that's
Listen.
Nabatean.
But my audience is pretty skilled. They know what Petra is. I don't
Okay,
know. I've no fucking idea if to do. I mean, so
so the lineage, right? This is before we called it houses and we organized ourselves and all that stuff. But this is the people we come from traditionally. And the Romans came in, sacked a bunch of things, killed a bunch of people. My family moved to Rome and started the city Rome, not not just Rome, the country or civilization or whatever, and uh, started living there. And that's what we refer to currently as the first house, the Roman house. Right. From there, we were trading people, right? Because that's what the Nabateans were. They were trading people. So we were merchants. Uh, from there was what we call the second house was made, and that was a Carthano. Was it Carthano's Roma or not Roma? Nova. Right. It was in Hispania. It's like I forget what it's called today. It's eastern Spain, eastern Hispania. And then there was a house opened in Cyprus, and then there's a house opened in Londinium or London now. And then the Visigoths that killed everyone in the house in Hispania.
okay. So, but
And then
let me cut a little bit to chase. Are you telling
okay,
me that all of this is actually as an effect on you socially, right? Fucking now,
yeah, because this is like the founding of tradition.
you are mental. Yeah, you're definitely mental.
Okay. If not, I'll cut it off shortly here when
Yeah,
we get to it. Okay, so then the Germans invade. You know, the Germans invade Rome and sack Rome,
yeah.
right? Killed everyone in the Roman house. So the second son of the Cyprus house sailed to the house in London and founded essentially the rules and customs that would exist between houses, the obligations. It's like a giant treaty essentially, and that has to do with we still practice almost the whole entire thing today. We meet the patriarch of each house and the first son meet every 10 years. All of them. We all get together somewhere. We meet every 10 years. Talk about what we do if we want to change anything. We have a bunch of agreements. We have business arrangements between each other.
Wow.
There's all sorts of ritual and pomp and circus, like bread and circus going on, right? It's an occasion, right? It's like an anniversary almost. And we discussed the rules about how we deal with new houses or how we deal with each other. And for example, if a new house splits off of an old house, every house has to give them a gift, right? So my uncle, 10 years ago, at the not 10, 8 years ago, at the last meeting we had, announced he was going to start a new house. It's the newest house. It's the 27th house. It's in California. Everyone gave him money, right? And I don't want to tell how much money I gave, but it ranged in gifts from like 10K up to like 100K worth of American, like USD. Right? That's how a house starts. We're obligated to do it. If we, and it's an honor system, right? So if you can't afford to give a lot, you don't give a lot. But everyone because we meet and we talk, everyone kind of knows what everyone else can afford. So if you're a cheapskate, there's gonna be repercussions, right? You're gonna get cut out of business dealings, all that sort of stuff.
So listen, man. I mean, I don't know. Right now, I don't know if I have to suggest you a good doctor for you and your family, or if I'm actually speaking with the real Illuminati. I just leave it there. I don't want to know about it anymore because now I'm looking at at my back to see if there's somebody in the shadow behind me. So let's go to the second question. Uh,
That was like the crazy part. The other part is
oh, that was the crazy part. Okay.
yeah, that was
Yeah.
the real crazy part. We have a practice of immersing ourselves in the culture that our house is in. So most of the cultural things that people are going to interact with me on is I'm Mohawk and I'm from the Midlands of the United States. So I'm native and I'm a gun-loving American. I like blowing stuff up and shooting things.
You're part of the lizard people. That's what the fuck you are. But anyway, so second question: are you religious? And if so, what religion do you practice?
So simply,
Yeah.
it's a practice of fetal piety. It's like I would say ancestor worship, but
Of
it's
course
not
you
like what
would.
you yeah, it's not like what you would think of like in Chinese culture where they have like the shrine and the statues of the old family members and all that other stuff. But most of our practices involves sort of remembering our our elders, right? So we have a holiday where the immediate family gets together and we walk our family graveyard. There's I have a graveyard like 50 yards from my house. That's the family graveyard. That graveyard for my house.
Of course you do.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we walk our kids through it, and we tell them stories about everyone in the graveyard. Right, we tell them to give thanks because they had to do this or they had to go through that or they did this for you or they built that for you. You know, your great grandfather planted those 10 trees over there and those 10 trees over there got cut down to build your house. Right, that sort of stuff. So it's all about giving thanks to all the hard work of the people that came before you. So it's ancestor worship essentially. You're
Okay.
just
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So third question would be, what ethical standard or principles do you believe in?
so this is like I said before, obligations through virtues, permissions through actions. Right, so it's a nested system to where at the very top, the first thing I would check before taking an action, if I had the time to anyway, would be what are my obligations? Like like my family, my kids, my wife, my parents, all those people. Uh, I am obligated to take those people above everything else. If, for example, like if there is a God and God came down to me and said, either I kill your family or you hit this button and you wipe out half the people on the planet, I'd hit the button. I wouldn't even think about it. I'd be worse than Hitler. I'd be worse than Hitler for my family.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Past that, there's like a standard of virtues, which is like competence, courage, strength, honor, practical wisdom. You People can look those up. That's like Aristotle, right? That goes back. Those are all upable. Those don't really need explanation. And then past that, I am a consequentialist, right? If for mostly because it's so thick at this point, right? It's for like snap decisions when I don't have time to think, right? If I do that, this will happen. I don't like that. I won't do it. That's what I am.
Okay. Listen, sir. This has been super interesting. Two things. If this, conversation ever starts a new religion, I want 5% of it because I was instrumental in sprouting it, I guess. And yeah, I mean, next episode is going to be about the Hollow Earth. Maybe, I don't know. No, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. That was a really cheap shot. I'm sorry, man. No. It was really. It just really caught me so off guard that I was like, what the flying fuck is he talking about right now? Yeah, I mean, when he started me with New Carthage and that stuff, I said, okay, yeah, now he's pulling my leg. But no, but I understand that there is something behind it. Yeah, and it's super interesting. So thank you very much for sharing. And yeah, talk to you soon.
Thank you.
If I didn't care more than words can say, if I didn't care, would I feel this way?